Hey guys, Jay here. Welcome to Models Memories Weekly, episode 62. Models Memories is a show about nothing and is filmed in front of a live studio audience. This is a show where I talk about my painting, modeling, and wargaming experiences from the week. Now you might be thinking to yourself, Jay, you put out 3 YouTube videos a week and you stream every single night. How could you possibly have more to say? Well, I do, and here goes. This week I had so much fun because I painted this sucker. This Space Marine bust, which you just saw the video if you watched the video on Wednesday, which you all did. Thank you very much for your views. This bust was so much fun to paint, and it has awakened something in me. Just like The Force Awakens awakened Star Wars and the Force. Models that aren't like 28 or 32 millimeter scale models are really fun to paint. They're an interesting challenge. And it's got me thinking, because I feel like I learned a lot painting this model, and I learned things that I wouldn't have learned by painting regular Black Templar Space Marines. I mean, I probably would have learned them at some point painting the 200 and some odd Black Templar models that are sitting behind me. But I learned a lot, and I think what I wanna do is I wanna take what I learned and I wanna keep going, because I have a burgeoning chibi collection. This is a little 3D print of a chibi predator from the movie Predator. But some stuff like this is really, really fun because it kind of takes away some of the things that you can rely on when you're painting small scale stuff like washes, and everything is a little bit more up to you. And the point of a chibi is a caricature, and so you kind of have to take the concept and push it. You have to add the story kind of back into the model. And I think that's kind of what you learn painting larger scale things, is like, you kind of have to think about what's important and what you have to paint in order for the model to properly tell its story. And so I'm excited to give a little bit of chibi painting a try. And I've heard other painters discover stuff like this about painting busts or pinups or all sorts of different types of miniatures. And I think my discovery exercise is going to be chibis. I also just like fun, silly stuff. And so chibis are definitely up my alley. But yeah, I got the Predator. I also have Jesse Ventura from the movie Predators. And I have a Sigourney Weaver from Alien chibi. And so I'm excited to give those a try. But yeah, this model was really, really fun to paint. I would love to do some more busts. I was thinking about, could this be my open entry in Golden Demon next year at Adepticon? It's possible. I think I would definitely go back and put a couple more like 50 hours into it to just fix any of the little flaws that I see, the things that I didn't take all the way to perfection. This model is probably 10 hours of painting into this guy. And a lot of it also has to come down to, I painted this on camera, and so that slows the process down. I have to document my work. I have to get all the cameras situated and in focus and filming the things that I want them to film. But yeah, quite a few more hours into this guy. I think it could make for a fun, open entry. And speaking of Golden Demon 2023, I plan to enter every single category, or at least as many categories as I possibly can between now and next year. But there's a lot, there's 12. There's the open category, which is anything goes, which this model will fit into perfectly. And I took a look at Warhammer 40k single miniature. Warhammer 40k single miniature is the toughest. It's the toughest slot because that's what most people enter. And so I have my entry all picked out, and I did a little bit of test painting. And I am going to paint up this miniature. This is a old school Necromunda Van Sayre guy with plasma cannon. And I found this on eBay, and I thought that is one of the most ridiculous miniatures I have ever seen in my entire life. And so I picked it up, and boy, that is a cannon right there. Literally, the gun is far bigger than he is. I absolutely love it. The new Necromunda Van Sayre with plasma cannon looks, better. It looks a lot better. It's shoulder mounted, everything is proportioned, the model actually looks good, but boy, does this figure have a ton of charm. And I think that's kind of what I want to do with Golden Demon. I don't have like grand aspirations of sweeping the competition. I wouldn't mind taking home one of those really ugly trophies. That would be cool. But really what I want to do is I want to have stuff in the case that makes people chuckle themselves. And I think that this model is totally gonna do that. I'm gonna make Nick 3D print me a base that says, I like big guns and I cannot lie. And if I enter every single one, I would love one of my dumb entries to be featured on a Warhammer community article. I mean, can you imagine? On Warhammer community, I like big guns and I cannot lie. Ah, that would just make me crack a smile. I did a little test painting on his face because when I got this model, I'm like, I like it. I like this model. It's not terrible, but the face is really, really rough. So I threw some paint on the face. I'm gonna strip it off when I do this for real, but it's not the worst. There is something to work with the face, I thought, because one of the eyes is really proud and one of the eyes is really sunken. I think the one thing I'm gonna do is the mouth needs some work because he's got teeth on the top and then he's got nothing on the bottom, and it kind of makes him look like a Muppet. And so what I might do is I might just put some green stuff to make it like he's like clenching his teeth. Like that gun is really, really taking some effort to hold up and fire. And so I think I might green stuff some teeth on a bottom row of teeth, just to make it look a little bit nicer. But yeah, really excited about the Van Saar with plasma cannon. Ah, gosh, I cannot wait. And I want to do that with every single category. I want them to be real. Like they're gonna be painted very well, and they're gonna be put on the nice dioramas, and they're gonna be done like a proper Golden Demon entry should be. But then there's just gonna be a humorous take on every single one, either the situation or a funny little tag on the plinths. But that's what I want from Golden Demon. I want because when you're at Adepticon, you know, people ask you like, hey, do you have anything in the booth? And when I say I've got the Van Saar with the plasma gun, I want people to be like, oh, I know exactly what model you're talking about. So yeah, very excited for this guy. I'm excited that the face is not as bad as I thought. I can totally do something with that face. Ah, good old Golden Demon. I have no idea what I'm gonna do for some of these entries. Some of them I have ideas. For the diorama battle scene, although maybe I have to look into it a little more. My idea might work better for duel. I don't remember exactly what the criteria is for diorama battle scene, but I want to have an orc Shuda firing on a Tau fire warrior, and the fire warrior is hiding behind a drone. Like he's got the hood of a drone pulled up, and the orc bullets are plinking on it. And then I want the plinth to say, please help the greater good, because that's the Tau, for the greater good. And then this Tau is like, oh my god, the greater good, please help. That's my idea for a duel. And maybe he'll be holding a pistol so that like there is a duel going on. It's not completely one-sided. But yeah, those are the only two that I like have a concrete idea of. Man, small scale Middle Earth diorama battle scene, Warhammer 40k or Warhammer Age of Sigmar units, Warhammer Age of Sigmar single miniature, Warhammer Age of Sigmar large model, Warhammer 40k large model, Warhammer 40k vehicle, Warhammer 40k squad. What to do about a vehicle? I'm not much of a vehicle painter. Maybe a Sentinel, because a Sentinel is one of my favorite 40k vehicles of all time. I just think it's such a classy thing. Maybe a Gene Stealer cult Sentinel, because everybody has seen Imperial Guard Sentinels, but like a Sentinel that is super decked out for the cult. Like maybe because I just read From the Shadows, What We Do in the Shadows. No, that's a really good movie though. Uprising, Day of Ascension. Holy cow, it took me a minute. Day of Ascension. I just read it and I absolutely love that book. And it's a Gene Stealer cult book. And if you can believe it, there is an uprising, a Gene Stealer cult uprising. And so maybe the idea is a Sentinel that they have pinned all of their flags and medals and symbols onto, and this thing is walking amidst the legion, the hordes of the Gene Stealer cult as like a banner that they all can look to and be inspired by to fight harder. Maybe that's the idea. I think you guys just saw me come up with my Golden Demon entry in real time. But yeah, now I like that idea. Nobody take it. That's mine. That's mine for Golden Demon next year. Yeah, I think that might be what I do. And the Sentinel's cheap. It's like $25. Perfect. Boom. Another check mark. But yeah, Golden Demon is a fun competition. I just want to go in and have a really, really good time. and I wanna make some people smile. But speaking of Games Workshop, they showed off a brand new miniature this week. A new model for Age of Sigmar Warcry, and Warcry is a game that is looking more and more enticing every time. I think it looks like a neat game. Big fan of Kill Team, and I can't imagine I wouldn't like the Age of Sigmar version of Warcry, especially since Kill Team is kind of built on the Warcry rules, which is great. I love Games Workshop moving away from classic like Games Workshop design war game design philosophies. I know that's heresy, but I really and you know, this is probably just me. I can only speak for myself, but points-based list building, stratagem stacking. Anytime where it takes a really, really long time to get to the actual gameplay is just not for me. I really like how in Modern Kill Team, it just takes a few minutes to put your list together and then you're playing. And a lot of those really kind of strategic decisions are made during the gameplay as opposed to just trying to get perfectly math hammer everything in the list building stage. I'm just not that big a fan of that style. Oh, do I have 4 points for the plasma gun? Let me bring the plasma pistol, but I like it. But then later on, you're like, you know what? I would really rather have those 4 points to put into a heavy bolter on this guy. And you have to get the calculator out and you're trying to figure out if you have enough points. Just not that big a fan. I wouldn't mind something different. I don't really mind Age of Sigmar because it's done in 5s, so I can at least do all the math in my head, and it's a lot easier to bring in units. And Age of Sigmar has some really, really good. It has some limitations, but I think those limitations are done in a smarter way. Because in 40K, and this 40K, some of the limitations have just come from like some things have been overpowered. Like you can only take 2 or 3 flyers. You're not allowed to take more. You're only allowed to take certain numbers of individual units from codexes because they're a little bit too good. Whereas in Age of Sigmar, it's like you can bring in blobs of guys, but then you have to pay some of your command points to increase the size of those squads. And I think that's not a bad way of doing it because you still have the option. You just have to decide to like, okay, I'll take a stratagem out from here and I'll use it to be able to bring a 30-man blob of skinks. I don't mind that. I think it's a better balancing act. But yeah, and I also just don't mind, things changing. I'm interested in 30K, not really, but I'm interested to see what 30K does with the 7th edition rules because 30K was built on the 7th edition rules, and the 7th edition rules were built upon Warhammer 40K 3rd edition's rules, which got scrapped for 8th edition, which was great because 8th edition was a magical time in Warhammer 40K. I mean, it actually felt like a game for once. I really, really like 8th edition, and 9th edition is just a continuation of 8th edition. And all these games are fine. All games are fun, and all games have their audience, for sure. But anyway, getting to this Warcry model. This is the Rotmire Creed Carrion Catcher. It says home to colorful characters such as the Rotmire Creed Carrion Catcher. Creed Carrion Catcher. So I don't know if this is going to be a single miniature. I don't know if Age of Sigmar or Warcry really does that. I know Necromunda does. Necromunda has like a lot of individual like hired guns that you can bring into your gang. I don't know if Warcry has it where you can bring individual models into your gang, or if this is the first model we're gonna see of a Rotmire Creed Carrion gang. I kind of hope it's the first model of a gang, because I don't know if this guy is cool enough to be like, ooh, I'm gonna snag that one model and add it to my crew. But I wouldn't mind a whole gang of this guy, but I think there's one major flaw here. Let me talk about the miniature for a little bit. It's fine. A few people pointed out to me, and I totally agree, that this guy looks a lot like a Cruel Boy. Like if you just kind of painted him as a Cruel Boy and you maybe took the bamboo away from his face and gave him the orc face, this is a Cruel Boy, and I kind of agree. It's not like jumping out at me as super crazy unique, but it's okay. I do kind of like the bamboo. It's an interesting touch, and you don't really see it on other miniatures. I don't know if I completely get like the the weird jello goo on his shoulders. Like I think he's supposed the Rotmeyer Creed Carrion Catcher, Rot Carrion. He's a little bit nurgly, but not like nurgly. He's just like, I don't know, sickly. He doesn't really look sickly though. He looks pretty darn strong. I don't know, there's just weird goo piles on his shoulders. I don't know if I love that. I think if you painted it where like these piles of goo were like maybe dripping on him, that would definitely help bring them into the paint job a little bit more. But other than that, he's fine. I like his weapon. But as soon as I saw it, I thought of the perfect way to make it way better. And that is, he's standing on stilts, but the stilts are like this big. Like what's the point of stilts that are this big? If you put him on some real stilts, now I think you got a model. Heck, you got a whole gang. I painted him to have much longer stilts, and this I would get excited about. I don't know the rules for Warcry, and I'm assuming you wouldn't want to double the height of your miniature, but I think it would be really, really cool to have these guys on stilts walking around. He's got his little fishing hook, ready to snag people. I think that would be a very, very unique gang. I love a gimmick, and a whole bunch of guys on stilts is a gimmick. And that's what I really would have liked to see. Cause yeah, sure, he's on stilts, it's kind of unique, but that much, you know? It's almost like, you know, he's just self-conscious about being short, and so he's giving himself that much extra height. Whereas if he's on stilts, you know, he's out of the mire, you know, he's out of range of some close combat weapons. Maybe I added some spikes onto his stilts so that you can't like grab onto it and like pull him down. I think big ol' stilts would be awesome. Now I'm back to thinking about Golden Demon because I have to do that Age of Sigmar unit. If this turns out to be the Rotmeyer Creed Carrion gang, maybe putting them up on stilts, maybe that's my move. I don't know, that could be kind of fun. But yeah, that's what I would have done, is put him on giant stilts, because you gotta make everybody unique. And Warcry has some really unique stuff. I mean, it's got the Spider Gang, which are really, really fun. It's got a couple of different barbarians. That's what I would like to see. Big ol' stilts. But yeah, Warcry is cool. I would like to play it. I'd like to play every game, but time. I have no time. Maybe one day somehow, I'll have time for all of the games I wanna play. I mean, not even just all the Games Workshop games I wanna play. I wanna play Infinity. I have an Infinity army sitting in a box. It weighs about 8 pounds because it's all metal. I would love to do that. I've got tons of Malifaux stuff in the works. I have 2 full Malifaux crews. I played one single game and it was a really fun game. The card mechanic instead of dice, beautiful. I mean, there's other stuff. Gaslands looks kind of fun. One day I'll have to try one-page rules just to get everybody to shut it about it. I'm sure it's very fun. But time. But I don't have any times for these games, but I did play just a little bit more Chaos Gate Grey Knights, Chaos Gate. And you all were incredibly helpful in the comment section of the last video. You guys gave me some hot tips on how to actually play that game, and it was very, very helpful. I didn't realize that you could click on information whenever missions pop up and it tells you what reward you're gonna get, because I had never received, you know, I made it like halfway through the game and I had never ever received servitors as a reward. Turns out I was just clicking on all the wrong missions. And so I fired up a new game, and now like I've got servitors, you know, coming out of my hull of my ship. I've got everything I need. So that was super helpful. And if you have any other suggestions on how to get a little better at Chaos Gate, please let me know, because I'd love to be good at this game. It's really fun. I'm having a great time with it. But yeah, all of your suggestions were super helpful. Oh, and I also have a question about Chaos Gate for anybody who might know the answer to this. Is there a difference between the types of weapons? Because they all seem to do 4 damage. I know that like once you start to, you know, get some victories and you start to get extra equipment, some of the equipment will have perks. It'll have like special power-ups and special abilities, but there's the falchions, the hammers, the force blades, and the staves, and they all seem to do 4 damage. Is there any particular reason you would pick one over the other? Are hammers better? Are falchions better? Are staves better? Are certain weapons better on certain classes of guys? I can't quite figure out the difference between the close combat weapons. The guns all do like objectively different things. You got the long range one, the short range one, the flamethrower. Those make perfect sense to me. But the weapons, every time I do a mission, I just try to throw on different swords onto different weapons onto every guy, and they all seem to do pretty much exactly the same. Like I've got one demon hammer that's got like better perks than the other demon hammer, so that one makes more sense, but I don't quite know the difference between the different types of close combat weapons, so please, let me know. And hopefully you guys will help every single week. You guys will make me a little bit better at Chaos Gates. Fun game though. Thumbs up. Can't wait for Space Marine 2. Space Marine 1 was a great game, and so hopefully Space Marine 2 is more of the same, because I like the first game. But one thing that makes me a little sad about Space Marine 2, Space Marine 1 has the perfect grim, dark 40K story. You've got, a little trio of Ultramarines, and you've got the old man Ultramarine, you've got the young Captain Space Marine, and then you've got the stickler for the rules Ultramarine, and they all work really, really well together. And Captain, Titus, is that the name of the captain? Or sergeant, he's probably a sergeant. And he is what a good Space Marine should be. He's a good leader, he makes the right calls, he's ready to bend the Codex Astartes when he needs to. I mean, the very beginning of the game is him jumping out of a plane and the other guy's like, this is not how the Codex Astartes says to do things. We're not supposed to jump out and use our jetpacks to get us down to the ground. And then he's like, well, the Codex Astartes is a framework, but we have to be willing to, make the right decision in the moment. And, he has such a purity of will and spirits that chaos, he's able to withstand the forces of chaos corruption. But then at the very end, and you've defeated the orcs and you've battled the demons, and you've defeated a chaos demon. You've defeated a big old chaos demon, and you've saved the day, and you're great, and you've kept your Imperial Guard friends safe. And then the Inquisition is like, we don't like the look of this. How come you were able to be near a demon? And he's like, because I'm good at this. And they're like, not good enough. And so they take him out back and shoot him. And it's such a perfect 40K story, because in 40K, if you're like a good person, you're in the wrong universe, and bad things are going to happen to you. And so I love the idea that this guy did everything right, and that damned him in the eyes of the world of 40K. It's just such a wonderful little story. And so it's a little sad to see him come back for the sequel, because it's not really how Warhammer operates. I don't know. Let me know in the comments below if you agree with me. But I love the stories in 40K that kind of accentuate how awful the world is by giving us somebody to root for and then destroying them because of how miserable the world is. And so it's a little sad to see him come back. It's not like they're running out of Space Marine heroes to make games about. They could have just made a new guy. Maybe he's a Salamander, or maybe he's a Raven Guard. They didn't have to bring back the guy, but it'll be just fine, because it'll be a third-person shooter in the world of Warhammer. You're gonna be shooting Tyranids instead of orcs. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be great. Love it. And speaking of things that I love, the Eons of Battle Patreon. We have a Miniature of the Month club. You can get Squid Mages. We also have tons of awesome terrain STLs hosted by Comics, Games, and Things. We have one extra episode of EOB a week. We have live hobby hangouts. We have voting on what models I paint live here on YouTube. And we also have merch linked in the description. This is what I worked on this week. It was super fun. I love getting to try new things, and new things that aren't even that new. I've painted 222 Black Templar Space Marines, but this is the first time I painted one like this, and I learned a lot. Warhammer is fun. Thanks for watching.